Sure, I would love to call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call.
Okay, I will do the roll call. Director Andrews,
Here,
Director Richardson,
Present.
Director Colton.
Present.
Okay, and we have a quorum.
great. So thanks everybody for joining today. We're here to go over Resolution 23 CEDB 01 to approve a project for Green Street Armory Investors. So Patrice, do you want to talk us through that or?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to
Can you
share.
hold on just a moment? Well,
Oh, go ahead.
never mind. I thought Peter was gonna do it, but Patrice.
Oh.
um,
Sorry. Peter
Yeah,
or
I would
Patrice,
prefer we
or both.
allow Peter to introduce the resolution and then we'll have Patrice go into.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Take it away, Peter.
Yeah, so I am basically just introducing it. So this may sound familiar, the Armory project. This is a resolution to authorize an assessment for the Armory project, which we have done in the past. So this is taking into account some building upgrades that weren't previously included in the last PACE assessment are going to be included in this one. So they were reviewed, these new upgrades. It is going to be retroactive. These upgrades are already in place, but they are just retroactively looking at these upgrades to utilize PACE financing for them and add it to the previous assessment contract that they had. And so my understanding is that these new upgrades that are retroactively being looked at were taken into account as a whole with the previous assessment contract and those upgrades, and they still meet all of these state statutes and the requirements for energy efficiency and economic benefit. And so as a whole, they are good to go. And this additional amount sought by Green Street is before the board today for approval. And if there are additional questions, and I know that Patrice, I believe, has a few slides that she can share with the board for more specific details on the actual project upgrades themselves. And if there's any additional questions, you can direct them to Patrice.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Just 1 second. Let me know if you can see the whole. Okay.
Looks good.
So like Peter says, it's for the Armory upsize. It's for an additional 5 million, and it is retroactive financing. This is just the section that we talked about. I think we did retroactive financing before. This is just going over, this is what allows it. This is the total cost saved. This is kind of what we use to make sure that it meets our SIR. As you can see, it involves the envelope, the electrical, plumbing, HVAC, as well as some avoided capital, cost of capital. We didn't take in part the interest deduction or the MEP acceleration depreciation for the SIR, but even with that excluded, it still meets the SIR requirements as well as any other of the state statute requirements. And this is just a little bit more of how we go through and verify all of the savings for over the term. And then this is just our final ones where we looked at the 5 million that's added additionally, as well as the total amount of the $14,490,000 there. Any questions? Okay, and this is just the last little bit for our statement of our review. Basically, the SIR for just the additional 5 million was 8.48. But when you look at the total amount, which would be the $14,490,127, that's 2.92 for the total SIR, with the total PACE loan to value at 29% for the total PACE amount. And it met all of our other guidelines and state statute standards. And that's it for me.
Does anyone have any questions about the project or any clarification?
I do.
Okay, actually, first, can I get a motion on the table to approve this, and then we'll do discussion? Sorry, I think that's the right order, isn't it?
Well, we can do the discussion first, and then once everyone's solidified, then we can do a motion.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Sid.
So what is the resolution today approving? Is it approving, reapproving the original and adding 5 million? Are we adding 5 million, or is it going to be the aggregate amount is going to get reapproved?
It's going to be the additional 5 million.
Okay, so that's all we're looking at today is additional 5 million.
And then the action that will be taken after this is approved, and correct me if I'm wrong, either Patrice or Josh, but my understanding is the previous assessment contract will be amended to include the additional 5 million.
Correct.
And can someone remind me what the original PACE loan was? Do we
It
have
was
that?
10,490,127
And so did they just not realize there were additional things that qualified in the project? Or
Josh, do you remember how that came
Yeah.
up?
I can speak to that. So if you recall, this group actually was considering paying off its PACE note early. The inflation and other items resulted in them reevaluating their capital stack. And in that reevaluation, they identified and all parties became more comfortable with utilizing PACE as a larger portion of their capital stack. And because it was so soon, they went ahead and the parties agreed and thought PACE they did some updates actually to the property for a potential buyer. And when they combined those updates with their old stuff, they reconfigured the numbers and were able to say this is a better use of the funds, was just adding on an amended version. There was a discussion of whether or not you have a second assessment, which is allowed, but all their parties felt they prefer a single assessment, even if it is one parcel. And so they went ahead and did one assessment, amended the old assessment. And as Patrice outlined, they were able to keep both the loan to value and the SIR in check.
great, thanks for that explanation. Appreciate
So
it.
this is like a refinancing of the PACE.
No,
how does-
it's just making a PACE. It's making their it's like increasing your loan.
So
Right.
what happens to the term?
We had this talk, they're keeping the same term. They're
Okay,
not extending.
All
So
right.
that's why PACE said or Patrice said it's retroactive. So
well,
the end of the
that's,
term is still going to be the same.
okay, all right.
Great, thanks. Any other questions?
No, for me, I've already had my answers, my questions answered prior to the meeting, so I appreciate it.
Great. Well, then I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve this, if I can get a second.
So move on second, I'm sorry.
All right, I will call the roll. Director Richardson,
Aye.
Director Colton,
Aye.
and Chair Andrews.
Aye. All right. So that passes, that resolution passes. We have any other items that we need to discuss today? Any need for an executive session? No. All right, well then I
You can just
will
adjourn.
call for an adjournment, and I don't think we need any seconds for that, do we?
No, I just prefer if everyone, all that's in favor of adjournment, say aye. Believe it.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Everybody.
Thank you all
everybody.
very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Good rest of the day.